Det fjärde och sista programmet i serien Så målade mästarna har Tom Keating själv som huvudperson. Han har ju tidigare visat prov på sin fantastiska förmåga att kopiera målare. Det här programmet blev klart alldeles innan Tom Keating avled 1984.
£1,700, 1,800, 1,900, 2,000, 2,200, 2,400, £2,400 in the third row at £2,400. Any advance? £2,400. Any more? All done? To you, sir. Lot 103, thank you here. 400.
I december 1983 auktionerade Christie's i London ut målningar, akvareller och teckningar av konstnären Tom Keating. Det var första gången i deras 200-åriga historia som de ägnade en hel auktion åt en enda levande konstnär. Vad som gjorde det hela ännu märkligare var det faktum att Keating 7 år tidigare hade varit praktiskt taget okänd. Och när han blev känd så var det av skäl som knappast gjorde honom populär inom konstvärlden. 1976 visade det sig att 13 akvareller av den engelske 1800-talskonstnären Samuel Palmer inte alls målats av Palmer. Keating, som restaurerade tavlor på frilansbasis, skrev till tidningen The Times och erkände att han hade målat dem. Han bekände också att han hade målat hundratals, om inte tusentals tavlor i stilar som varierade från Krieghoff till Constable, från Rembrandt till Degas. Över en natt blev han folkhjälte. Han arresterades, anklagad för bedrägeri och ställdes inför rätta i Old Bailey i januari 1979. Rättegången avbröts på grund av hans dåliga hälsa och anklagelserna drogs tillbaka. Han återvände till sitt hem i Dedham, byn i Essex som blivit berömd genom att landskapsmålaren John Constable verkade där. Där bodde han fram till sin död 1984. Han målade 7 dagar i veckan i sin ateljé, ett träskjul i trädgården.
I was born in a working class family in a slum in London in 1917. It was a family of 9. My mother had 13 children and lost 6 of them through poverty, really. We lived in a little flat with a fascist landlord, 10 bob a week. 24 people shared one lavatory, no bathroom. Like many other people in Britain of those days. My father was gassed in the war, but was managed to, before the war he was a painter. He worked for the house painter, he worked for 35 years for the same firm. But when he was gassed, they sacked him because he couldn't climb ladders. They paid him 1 6 in compensation. I think my mother, broadly speaking, had about £2 a week to keep everybody on, but then the old boy had an allotment which saved the day because we always had at least vegetables and we kept chickens in the backyard, this kind of thing. And owing to my mother was a great person, like we all love our mothers, but my mother happened to be one of those that worked all her life, lived to be nearly 90, drank hard, swore hard, fought hard, loved hard with all the kids she had, probably. God bless her. Probably the only relaxation she obtained. But we were happy.
How soon did you become interested in art?
Well, art is, as we know, is an escape. And I soon found at the age of about 8 that I wanted to emulate the paintings that were on the walls. They were, of course, reproductions, lithographs, mainly Pears annuals, things like that, and of course from books. And there you escaped into the grim fairy tales and so on, into a completely other world from the rat-infested place we lived in. It wasn't the rats so much as the bugs, fleas, lice, so on. It was great discomfort to be poor. It's great discomfort to be poor anywhere, but I think in a cold country it's worse, because the winters were bitter. So we escaped into the world of make-believe, and I personally escaped into painting as I do now.
And then you ran away from home, didn't you?
I ran away from home into the extreme crowding. You see, we slept like three in a bed and under the bed and God knows what. And so I ran away to my granny's in Elton. But of course, the beauty of that was I went to the village school, and the lady who was made headmistress there had actually served in my old school, the slum school, the London County Council school, and been made headmistress there. So as soon as I walked in, I was a favourite student. And so she allowed me to decorate the school windows. Ducks and chickens and all this stuff all around. So the 3 years I had in Elton were very beautiful. This is where I fell in love with landscape painting and nature generally. I loved it. I mean, the tragedy was I had to leave it. My granny got too old to look after me, and I had to return to the other place. I got a scholarship to St Dunstan's College, but couldn't go there because we couldn't afford the clothes. There wasn't the kind of grant system to the extent it is today. I got a trade scholarship at the age of 12, I think it was, and couldn't go there for the same reason. In fact, my sartorial elegance was practically nil because my mother did washing, took in washing as a job besides charring and all that. And amongst it was the Wasp football team, amateur players, and they went broke or whatever you go when you finish up, and she didn't get her money, so they left to the 11 pairs of shorts and 11 black and white striped jerseys, and I wore those for something like 7 years on them, and the football boots without the studs in, and I was glad of them too, because they're made of leather, and then all the rest of the clothes one got came from jumble sales. I didn't have a new clothes till I actually left school and bought them myself.
What work did you do when you left school?
I became a larder boy at the age of 14 in the local barber shop. I had, roughly speaking, 56 different jobs before the war, different trades and all that, but I was a larder boy the same as Turner. Then I went into the building trade, of course, and basically became a house painter. In those days, of course, we mixed, I've mixed literally hundreds of tons of paint by hand, physically. We mixed 500 weights of lead and priming and so on, so one would learn all the same basic skills that the old masters used. It's the same material, it's only coarser ground. And this gives you a wonderful conception of the use of balsams and varnishes and linseed and so on, and colour mixing. It all comes into it. And if you ally that with marbling and graining, sign writing. And then I went on to art school, evening classes as a boy, at Croydon in the evenings, 5 nights a week, then Camberwell 5 nights a week, to learn the trades, drawing. I tried to draw. Drawing, you see, takes you all your life. You never stop drawing.
What did you do when war broke out?
When war broke out, I was unemployed. And very quickly was offered a job in camouflage. Not because of any artistic ability, but as a house painter. So I spent a very miserable 6 months, I think it was, on the roof of Kidbrooke Aerodrome, trying to do camouflage to look like a beehive or something. Unsuccessfully, I might add. I think it was bombed. I hope it was in a way. Then I had various jobs, house painting, camouflage. And I was in London when the first, it all started. And I got called up into the Navy. Although, to be completely honest, I volunteered for the Navy. Should have been a conscientious objector, didn't have the guts. Hate killing. Hate it even more now.
1940 blev Keating eldare i kungliga brittiska flottan. Han var med om drabbningar i Dunkirk och Fjärran Östern, där han under 4 månader arbetade med att censurera brev för flottans underrättelsetjänst. När Singapore fallit flydde han till sist till Australien, varför han skickades tillbaka till Storbritannien och beordrades att inställa sig i Portsmouth.
And the chap who gave me the draft sheet in Portsmouth back said, "You like the bastards, you help them, they sent you on Russian convoys." I didn't mind. I was frightened, I was afraid, but I didn't mind. And I went, and it was appalling, terrifying. It was slaughter. And unbelievably cruel in every way. The weather was cruel. And although I've often said I hated every second in the Navy, I'm honoured to have served in the Atlantic convoys.
Keating tjänstgjorde på 12 atlantiska konvojer och på den 13:e resan blev hans fartyg HMS Lagan torpederat och i januari 1944 så skickades han hem som invalid.
Staggered out on 17 shillings a week. I got married during the war to a comrade's girl who was killed on the Kelly, died in Louis Mountbatten's arms. And he had his legs burned off, which is not a nice thought. And so I married his girl. And we were together for 12 years. We had 2 kids. I went in all kinds of jobs. It's very difficult because I was invalided out on a small pension. I'm very nervous, and believe it or not, I stuttered. And then I had a kind of a strength came back through self-discipline and prayer. And I'm not a Bible puncher, but I believe in prayer helps you a lot. And the determination to be a painter, I suppose. So I went to college on an ex-service grant and all that, like many others.
1947, när han var 30 år gammal, började han studera på heltid på Goldsmiths, konsthögskolan i södra London.
Happiest years of my life, actually. In that way. I loved it because it gave you an opportunity to learn about painting. You don't, with respect, they don't teach much in the way of the techniques of painting. But it gives you an opportunity to study in the library and draw from life and so on. And it puts you into the ambience of art, which is marvellous, and you meet young people. I was the second oldest student there, actually. I've always been old. They elected me, whatever it is, the number 1 chappie, president of the union or something, which was very sweet in one way, but onerous in another way, because that necessitated me working much harder. I was having to earn a living to keep my family, and it wasn't just my family, it was my mother and other people. I was there 5 years. I failed my exams. I'm not much good at exams anyway.
Were you surprised you failed?
I'll be completely honest with you and say I was astounded. I got 100% for one subject, 98% for, of course, the subject being technical painting. And, very, very high marks. And the one that you had to pass, the composition, they gave me 2 marks under the pass mark. I wanted to be a teacher when I left college, and I didn't have the qualifications, so I taught in a private school at terrible money, slave labour, for 4 years, wasted years. And I painted in between time and did house painting and all kinds of jobs. I've always worked 7 days a week, but that was a bit much then. And then my marriage broke up, so I shoved off. I became a picture restorer, taught myself picture restoring, and I did 2 years in a restoring studio in the West End of London, and hence my desire to leave because of the corruption and, villainy that goes on in the art world generally, signing paintings that don't belong to the signature and so on. And I was used unwittingly to do a lot of faking. I mean, there's a subtle difference between faking pictures and forging pictures. And most pictures in National Galleries and anywhere and all that are faked up anyway. Faking up meaning overpainting, damaged areas, and of course if you haven't the skill to touch every little piece in, which takes enormous love, practice, skill, you paint the area instead, so that's really faking. Most paintings in the world are faked up. But to completely re-fake a picture, in other words, to paint a pastiche, I was employed doing this. I used to get £5 each for them. I thought they were just copies, but they ended up being sold about 2,000 quid or something. The faking that goes on in the art was incredible. I mean, figures in and out, and old men painted out, and voluptuous ladies put in, and little boys for chaps who like little boys substituted for little girls. It's very common through the whole of art, through all the centuries of art, right back to the Roman and Greek. I've worked on encaustic paintings of mummy. Even they've been faked up to look like Greek. BBC faking's gone on forever.
När han slutat på ateljén så arbetade han i Storbritannien som frilanskonservator. I 2 år var han chefskonservator på det kungliga residenset Marlborough House, och 1976 blev hans andra verksamhet känd för allmänheten.
What do you mean by the term Sexton Blake?
Sexton Blake? Well, you see, Sexton Blake is a Cockney rhyming slang for cake, actually. I was brought up to speak rhyming slang when I was an old boy, never spoke anything else. But I think it's a humorous way of kind of referring to my fakes, if you like to call them that, or pastiches, have always been done as a semi-skylark, or, more importantly and seriously, to expose the corruption in the art world. For instance, if we take Krieghoff, of which Lord Beaverbrook and Lord Thompson have more than enough, poor old Krieghoff was starving, you know, with the arse out of his trousers in Canada. Very brilliant botanist he was. He drew plants in the forest. And his work, which was, he sold for the equivalent of a few pence, a few shillings, because of the necessity of the millionaires, the 3 millionaires bidding for them. The agents work the price up now that you can get £80,000 to £100,000 for Krieghoff, which he couldn't get a few shillings for. I consider this as immoral, very much so. It's not uncommon, but I'm quoting one chap. And so to devalue Krieghoff, I could paint one with respect, a bad one of course, in a Saturday morning, you know, happily. And so I flooded the market with them. I gave them away. I sold them sometimes for the cost of the canvas so that I could buy more canvas. I'm not making excuses about Sexton Blake, and if I wanted to be a faker, had wanted to do it for money, you would have never heard of me. I wouldn't be making this programme probably. I'm not that good, actually, at it, honestly, I assure you. There are wonderful, I know several, I taught one, but younger than me. There are chaps living in luxury in the south of France and the East End of London or wherever they want to be, who are doing very nicely, thank you, with the help of the West End dealers and so on, other dealers. Good luck to them. The work they produce is of exquisite quality, is going to last. You know, after all, what does it matter who paints the picture in a way, as long as it gives pleasure?
Where did you learn all the techniques of the old masters?
I taught myself. I can't ever remember one lesson from anybody. From books, and from trial and error. You know, I'm still learning now, and I've got a lot to learn now, of course I have. It's an innate love. I've devoted the whole of my life to painting. I was allowed to, I mean. even in the war. It's an obsession. I make no bones about it. I've given up family, friends, everything. Well, I've tried not to, but one has to. You have to devote yourself. Because I'm old now, and older rather, I have less time. Obviously, I'm not going to make it, but you just try, you just struggle on to learn every day, do a little bit every day.
Do you have any idea how many sextons you've done?
That have got out, Jimmy, because I've destroyed a lot. It's in the thousands, I should think, 2,000 or 3,000, something like that. They're not major works of art. I mean, little scribbles.
And how many artists?
Well, I never worked this out, but Geraldine Norman worked out 136 or something. This is not true. I can only draw and paint like myself, really. You know, I mean, it's difficult to say.
Have you ever been asked to clean one of your own sextons?
Yes, many times. Excuse me. Yes, I've been asked to clean my own sextons. Of course, I've had to refuse because they all come off so quickly. You can't do that. I use a certain varnish that's easily removed, but it removes the paint with it, you see. I have a thing about, if I paint on whatever, my own painting even, which we have to when you're poor on old canvases, I usually give it a coat of gelatine, you see, on top of the old boy, whoever it is, or woman, and then that easily comes off when it's cleaned. My picture would come off and leave the original painting there. In the case of a sexton, you see, if you give it a thin coat of gelatine, it will come off and reveal whoever's there. I mean, once it's cleaned. I should imagine, not all, I haven't done this to all, but I should think 80 or 90% of the stuff of any value I've done, I mean, would come off as soon as you start to clean it. I think it's the beauty of it. Serves them right, doesn't it, really, for not knowing their work.
What do you remember of the trial?
All of it? No, very little of it. I was drawing all through it.
Were you allowed to draw?
No. This is what I mean by the power of art, you see. I can lose myself in drawing under almost any circumstances. All through the Battle of the Atlantic, or even on action stations, I used to draw and hide yourself. And I drew in 2 large books to begin with, and then the judge observed me, and he's quite a nice bloke, actually. I'm not saying that because I expect to meet him again, but he was tolerant. They were all tolerant, but even the police in a way, but you've got to obey the law. So the Lord Hutchison said, would you not draw doodle? Like that, it was kind of thing. So I broke my brushes in half and everything and did it under the thing. And I completely lost myself in it. And I'm amazed at the calmness of the drawings, the way you can get away from everything. Little piece of paper, and you can escape into another world. Little pencil and paper. It's absolutely essential to realise, I think, that there is a lot of power in art. People think a lot of painters do a lot of effete and puff-deified people. But there's great strength in art in every way, and it's a valid thing in life. People don't realise this, that everything that's designed comes off the drawing board. And it took me many years to realise this, that one had a place in society, a legitimate place in society. It doesn't mean to say you've got to do enormous posters of socialism or whatever, but just plod along and teach. And this is why I like teaching, because it gives someone a magic wand into another world.
Under rättegången i Old Bailey råkade Keating ut för en motorcykelolycka. Han föll ihop i rättssalen och fick föras till sjukhus. Och anklagelserna mot honom drogs tillbaka.
What is your own style? What would you say is a genuine Tom Keating?
Pretty awful, actually. Well, I can draw a bit. I'm not a very good painter. And so it's illustrative in a way, I suppose, I don't know. Romantic. difficult to say. How do you describe yourself? You're asking me to describe myself. Possible.
Hela den här serien Så målade mästarna kommer i repris här i kanal 1 i nästa vecka. Med början på måndag och sedan ytterligare 3 dagar. 16:35 måndag till och med torsdag.